Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Marvel Legends Walgreens exclusive Agent Venom. Now, I don't suspect this figure was originally supposed to be a Walgreens exclusive. The packaging doesn't indicate it in any way. I do believe that they just decided they could probably get him out that way, so that's what they did, and that's okay by me. At least they are putting them out. It's a pretty cool figure. They did a lot of tooling for it. Underneath most of the tooling is the Shield Agent, or Steve Rogers, main body, whatever you want to call that. So we have the same thighs. Actually, underneath all of this is the torso. This is all a rubber piece that can technically come off. So biceps, shoulders, chest, crotch, upper legs, all Steve Rogers. I believe the boots are new. Yeah, the boots are new, shins are new, knees are new. Hands and forearms are new. Shoulder pads are a separate piece, connected to this thing, so that's new. I'm pretty sure this belt is from the Ultimate cap that came with the vest. And then, of course, we have a new head. All of the sculpting on this stuff is pretty good. I really like the way they sculpted the anatomy on that chest plate. I don't know why they're not doing more of that style sculpting, that type of musculature on the actual figures. That would be pretty awesome. But we do have pretty good sculpting. We have this stupid pistol sculpted in actually to the thigh holster, which just drives me nuts that they even reused that. It just really bothers me. I don't know. But otherwise it's pretty decent. It's a solid black figure with white paint. The white paint's pretty poor though, unfortunately. The best part for mine is this thigh line right here, so that's pretty solid, but they didn't put any on the upper leg, the hip joint. I don't know if that's just mine or all of them, since it's kind of hidden anyway, but the line does not continue up. The white is pretty translucent everywhere else. You can see the black pretty much everywhere. The edges are actually pretty clean, so I like that. And it kind of looks just like it's dirty or worn. I know that's not really what it would look like. At least I don't think so. But everywhere except for the very back is pretty translucent, so it could look better. The paint on the eyes could be better, but it's still a pretty decent looking figure overall. I'm pretty happy with it. He stands roughly 6 3/4 inches tall, so that's pretty good. I do like the head sculpt. One thing I want to note though, the way they sculpted it, the neck is pretty far forward in the head. The way they put the peg, this is kind of a new thing Hasbro's been doing. I'm not sure why. The peg hole is really far forward in the head, so when you snap it on, in order to make him look forward or down, the neck kind of goes into the chin, and then he's got a lot of head on the back rather than having the neck go into the back of the head, which is how human anatomy really works. So that's just a little bit irritating. You can kind of tell it looks like he's like trying to give himself a double chin by pulling his head back. I don't know, it just looks a little bit odd, but it's not horrible, so that's okay. The shoulder pads are nice and floppy, so you can still pose the Shield Agent body underneath. Of course, they're going to have the same effect as Nova's, and they're not going to look that great in some poses, most poses, but you can kind of cheat around it and make it work, so I'm okay with that. You cannot get any use of the ab crunch out of there, really. I mean, you can get like one click, but this body armor that's on there gets in the way, which is, I mean, they had to do it somehow. I'm glad they did this rather than not doing anything at all, so I don't really mind. Waist twist is still there. Hips are all still there. A little loose in the hips. Knees are still double jointed. He does have an ankle rocker, so that's good. You cannot bring the foot too far forward due to the sculpt, but you do have the hinge down there. So articulation is not too bad. No wrist articulation at all other than the swivel that's underneath this armor, which is not horrible. They did okay with that. It's much better than Magneto's turned out, so that's okay by me. So overall, it's a pretty good figure. He does have some accessories. He's got the symbiote tendrils that hold guns. It kind of pegs into his back. It's meant to. It doesn't peg in very well. It tends to fall out because you have to peg through the soft armor piece into the back, and it just doesn't quite fit, and it's not quite sculpted right to connect properly. So it looks like it's going to stay, but then it kind of just works its way loose. It's not bendable, though it is soft. I wish it had wiring inside. That would have been really cool, so you could actually pose the hands holding the guns. We get 4 guns. We have this gun here, which is, I think, the Steve Rogers gun, if I remember correctly. This time it's all molded in all black, and they painted the flashlight red. Looks okay. And then we have this little MP5K maybe. It seems smaller than the one that came with, who was it? Mystique, I think. It seems a little bit smaller. I can't even fit his finger into the trigger guard. But it's a decent sculpt, so that's okay. And then we have new pistols. I think these are new. These might be the Black Widow ones. Actually, now that I look at them, I'm pretty sure they are. Trigger guards look a little warped, but the pistols are okay in general. Only problem with this guy is he really can't hold any of the pistols in his hands properly. Not any, I'm sorry, I misspoke. He can hold these two silver ones all right. It's not great though, the way the fingers are sculpted and the way the guns are sculpted. He just holds them kind of crooked. It's not a big complaint, it's just something to note. He's always going to hold them a little bit crooked. And then this pistol here, he holds this one pretty crooked, but it's not nearly as bad, so that one's okay. The finger, I think, the fingers is what's throwing this off. The way his fingers are sculpted, it's just making him hold the pistols kind of funny. But I guess he can hold them, so that's okay. I don't know why I said he can't hold the pistols. He can't hold this gun, really, at all. In any way, you can see the whole trigger guard fits within his index finger. And it's just not gonna work. You gotta have to kind of wedge it in there, so that's no good. So he can only hold the pistols. As far as the tendrils go, it's a little tricky to get them to hold what you want them to hold in the right direction, especially this one. Nothing really holds this gun very well. You can kind of wedge it in there, but then it's just firing off into nowhere. This gun, it's okay for some of them. Doesn't really work on this one too well unless you turn it a lot, and that doesn't work that well anyway. Up here, doesn't work. In this one, works a little bit if you kind of twist it, but it doesn't really want to go anywhere. It just kind of sits in there, probably going to fall out. And this one, these silver pistols seem to work best with most of these little tendril hands, but the sculpt on the hands makes the pistols pretty much have to be held sideways like that. So they're pretty much firing off away from wherever the figure is looking, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's just something to note. It is cool that they included the tendrils that can hold the pistols. They just don't work as well as I was kind of hoping. You kind of have to just wedge them in and hope they work. And then this one down here doesn't seem to be good for anything. So I don't know, it's still cool looking. You can figure out a way to get the one pistol in his hand and the other three guns across these three tendrils. This hand would be open, that tendril would be open. You can get some pretty cool posing out of it. It ends up looking pretty good. I think it's better than most of the Legends we've seen lately, but definitely still has a ways to go to be considered actually a really good figure. It's just a pretty decent figure. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.